All right. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Yud Aleph. We're going to continue to learn statements of Rava Bar Machasya Omar Rav Chama Bar Guria Omar Rav. We're going to be learning about the height of a shul vis-a-vis the height of the homes in that city or village. We're going to be learning about the power of a ta'anit, of a fast, as it nullifies a dream, a bad dream. And that is particularly true when a person fasts on the day subsequent to the dream, which is why if a person feels they need to fast, they may even fast on Shabbos, and then they have to do another fast. They should have atonement for the fact that they fasted on Shabbos. But you can fast on Shabbos to nullify a bad dream. We're going to be learning, coming back to the importance of certain title learning, particularly when the Beis Din sits down together to deliberate whether you should make this year into a Ibur year or not. That this type of learning and deliberation is so important that not only is that sitting not interrupted for davening, which is a midrabanan disman nusachat tefillah, that sitting is not even interrupted for the reciting of Shema. We're going to start a new Mishnah that will be a hemshech of the Mishnah Daf Tes Amud Beis. And here we're going to start to learn several precautionary laws that were enacted to prevent people from inadvertent Shabbos violation. Some of them also mean that there are certain activities that we may not do even before Shabbos comes in, samuch to Ben Hashmoshes, half an hour before Ben Hashmoshes, in order for the person to not inadvertently violate Shabbos. We're going to be learning about other enactments, about the behaviors that we may not do on Shabbos. Gezerah, doing A might lead to the violation of Shabbos. For example, using a candlelight for certain activities which demand a very good amount of light. And many times oil, when it draws away from the wick, people that used to use candlelight regularly for their activities at night, they would just, without thinking, they're habituated, they would tilt the whole candle holder to bring the oil closer to the wick in order for the fire to become stronger without knowledge. And that is mamash, a violation of doiraisa mavir, of creating fire or adding to the fire on Shabbos. We're going to be learning a machlokes Abaye and Rava regarding whether, when it comes to the Isser, to the Malacha of transferring, which is something that's commonly done, whether we say that here the Chachamim make one Gezerah to protect another Gezerah. Normally we don't do that. There's no like double the Rabbanan. Anan Neikam v'nigza Gezerah li Gezerah, but by transferring by Haitzah, again you have a machlekes between these Amoraim that one of them will say that yes, we do. We're going to learn some dinim about maisres, from when are you mechuyev to tithe. Even before that chiyuv kicked in, there is an isur midrabanan to have achilas kva, but you still may have achilas aray. We'll speak about how all of this applies to our sugya. We will also be learning about this very general rule by Shabbos, that any activity that's done shaloi kedarkoi, remember, in an unusual way, automatically takes away the biblical violation. No one is advocating for people to break Shabbos shaloi kedarkoi because midrabanan it's also. But the isur goes from a deraisa to a drabanan. That's across the board rule. Shaloi kedarkoi, it's not the chayiv midaraisa. However, the question is, how do we define unusual? Does it mean it has to be unusual to you? What about if there's a behavior that most people don't do the behavior that way, right? But for you it's usual. So is it called kedarkoi or shaloi kedarkoi? And God willing, if there'll be time, we will go and speak a little bit and review a little bit about the laws of hechsher, of making foods susceptible to becoming tamei, by them being mukhshar, being wetted by one of the 7 halachic liquids, and they have to be wetted with the knowledge and to a certain amount of satisfaction of its owner. with many pratim of that satisfaction, and all of that again will be relating to our sugya here in Shabbos. We left off on Daf Yud Aleph, 3 lines from the top of the Amid by the 2 dots. We are continuing to learn statements, memories of Rava Bar Machasya in the name of Rav Chama Bar Guria, in the name of Rav. Ve'amar Rava Bar Machasya, Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria, Amar Rav, Kol Ir. Any city that the roofs of the homes in that city are taller than the Beis HaKnesses, we're speaking about not inclined roofs that are not used. We're speaking about the norm then, that people mamish use their roofs. Many people here also use a rooftop. If the rooftop is higher than the Beis HaKnesses, Chareva, such a city will ultimately be destroyed. As it says in Ezra, that l'roimem es beis Elokeinu, that we want to make high the house of God, ulahamed es chorvaisav, right, in order to restore all of its ruins. Aiden is high enough, and it's going to become even higher. And the pasuk continues that will produce, that this will create a fence around Yerushalayim. In other words, the height is connected to a fence, is connected to protection, which implies that the opposite, if it doesn't have that height, if other people are even higher than the shul, then it doesn't have this sort of protection, and ultimately, we need all types of protections. However, says the Gemara Vahanim in Bebatim, what may not be taller than what is better for it not to be taller than the shul? There's no isur in making it taller, but you lose a protection. Hanim in the Bebatim, a place where people use, homes. Aval b'kishkushe, but when it comes to forts, a fort, or when it comes to aberure, to a tower, people don't use those roofs, then leis lanba. And therefore the Rosh writes, homes that are inclined also pose no such problem. Amar Ravashi, I want you to know that I'm not Avdi, that I made sure that the city of Machasya, in which Rav Ashi was the Rav, the Loi Charevet will never get destroyed, because he made sure that no one built a home whose roof was taller than the roof of his shul. I frekti Gemara v'hachareva, but ultimately Masa Machasya did get destroyed. So the Gemara answers, no one said that if you don't have this protection, that it's going to last forever. That failing did not cause it to get destroyed. There were other failings for which Masa Machasya got destroyed. For Amar Rav Bar Machasya, Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria, Amar Rav, look at this. Tachas Yishmael v'loi tachas Nachri. Says Rashi, 8 lines from the top of the Amid, that if you have to be subservient to someone, if you're going to get a job under someone, better to work for a Yishmaeli and not for a Nachri. A Nachri here refers to a Roman. Don't forget, there was a lot of censorship. Can even refer to a Christian. Why? Because the Yishmaelim had better midos than the Nachrim. Tachas Nachri v'loi tachas Chabar. But if you have to pick and choose between a Nachri or a nation called a Chabar, the Chabarim, they were the ones that they worshipped fire. They lived near Persia or they lived in Persia. They were very much involved in making the takana that during the time of the year that now is Hanukkah time, Bisman of the Chazal, that you may not light a fire to anything other than their getchka, that is from the time when the menorahs were brought back inside. There was a sakana. It's interesting that many other idolater holidays at this time of the year are connected to lights. It's amazing. It's Mistama, this comes from the Chabarim. Then it was mamish. Today we call them kratzmach lights, but then they were lit for Avodah Zarah. They made us bring the menorahs back in, and Baruch Hashem, it's becoming more common that the menorahs are going back out. So they had more achzarias, the Chabarim, these people. So if you have to pick and choose, roads, work for a person who's kinder, who has less midas achzarias. Tachas Chabar, but don't work under a Talmud Chacham. This is such a good line. What's a Talmud Chacham? So Rashi writes, because there, if you will insult him, if you will disturb him, then then God will stand up for the Talmud Chacham, and you're going to pay a price. Tachas Talmud Chacham v'lei tachas yasin v'almana, says Rashi, because they cry easily, and if they cry, even if you didn't do anything extraordinary, not correct, then God listens to the tears of orphans and widows. Weiter. So therefore, don't work for them. If you have an option, if you can pick. Look at these statements. Kol choili. Guy's sickness refers to a lengthy, right, slow machla. Even if it's not that bad, but if it's a lengthy illness, it slowly saps your koyach out. So kol choili and not choila ma'ayin. For all these types of lengthy illnesses, stomach ailments are the worst. Kol ke'ev, a pain, are intermediate pains. Oh, it's pains that come on an irregular interval. So kol ke'ev, v'loy ke'ev leiv. The heart pain is the worst. Kol michush, an ache, is light passing pain. Kol michush, but not michush roish, not a headache. Kol ra, any evil, v'loy ish ra, but not a evil woman. In other words, the Me'idi says that when it comes to doing shidduchim, a lot more important than yichus is the character, as we find in the Chumash. He brings it from this member in the Gemara also. Okay, weiter. A woman who has a good character, a girl who has a good nature, that's the person you want to partner with. That imagine, im you kol hayamim diyoy. Normally these words are said and refer in the reference to praising God. Here we're saying that if all the seas would be ink, black ink, the agamim and all of the swamps that are filled with reeds would be kulmaisin. There'll be quills. Thank you. And all the heavens would be yirias parchments. And all the people would have been lavlorin. They would be scribes. Ein maspikim lichtoiv. We will be unable to write down chalala shel rashus, the depth of mind of government. In other words, every decision that they make is a balancing act between so many different important goals and missions and precautions that there's no end to it. And therefore, many things. And therefore, pray for the well-being of the government. And therefore, stay away from the government because they might do something that they know is bad for you, but they have a bigger consideration to take into account. It's not that they don't care about you, it's that they care about the bigger picture. And also it means that ultimately there is no perfect government. Only God Almighty has the capacity to do that which is beyond human depth. And what's the source from a pasuk? Amarav Mesharshia, that Shemayim Loroim, that the heavens are an example of height, right? Breaking the glass ceiling. The Aretz is a manifestation of Lo'oimik, of the deepest thing you can have. The Leiv Malachim, but the heart referring to Bina, the type of discernment that a government has to have is Ein Cheker, is beyond investigation. That a fast is effective to nullify a bad dream. Now we just came off brachas, and indeed many dreams are not bad. Actually, as we learned, it's better to say in all dreams, Chalam Tava. It's a good dream. But if a person feels this is a bad dream and they are concerned about it, the best antidote, the best vaccination is right away to fast. And that is as good, like fire is linoiris. Noiris is you have these little fibers, right? Little fibers, when they chop fire, the whole thing gets burnt up. All of the bad of the dream gets right away consumed through a fast. And Amar Rab Chizda, this koyach of a fast, to mamish take away any ill effect of a bad dream is uboy bayoim, is dafka if you have that fast on the day right after the bad dream. And therefore, v'amar Rab Yosef afilu b'Shabbos. And like we mentioned in the intro, even though that if a person indeed does a tainis cholam on Shabbos to rectify their not engaging in oinig, they have to fast again. But many people say, okay, I'll fast on Shabbos and I'll fast again, but I'm going to fast on Shabbos. Now, a story, and this is always whenever the Gemara gives a statement, and then there's a story, that's the way the Gemara says this is the halacha. Because there's a big chiddush that you are allowed to fast on Shabbos. So, Rabbi Yeshua b'nei Rabbi Idi, he once went to visit the household of Rav Ashi. And Rav Ashi, getting as a guest of Rabbi Yeshua, we're speaking about Amoyroim, but he was a big Moira of the late Igla Tilsa. He made for him an Igla Tilsa. We have this throughout either machlokes. Either it means that the third calf born, the third one born from the mother is the tastiest calf. That those children that are the third of their parent, they're the best kids. But there's something here. Or Igla Tilsa means a calf that only grew a third of its size. That's the... Someone here likes lamb. Don't make lamb, it smells up the whole environment, gefährlich. But they say it tastes good. Okay. Amru lei. So anyway, so he prepared the best food. He put lamb in the cholent and he told Rabbi Yeshua, Litay marmidi, and it was expensive. Now, B'chlal, when people undertake fasts that are not in Shulchan Aruch, as any other behavior that, let's call them lefnim yishura sadin, the concept of being tsanua means not to boast with your anything special. So it was normal that all of these Amirayim, they were doing gavaldic things beyond the letter of the law. No one knew about it. We have stories of the Rebbe. No one knew how much our Rebbe fasted. No one knew how much the Rebbe fasted. You see letters that his father, the Rebbe Levi, wrote to the Rebbe, "Are you Shimshon Agiver, that you are the Rebbe fasted every Monday and Thursday?" Mamish. So anyway, so they offered him food. The emes was he was fasting. So he had no option. When he was put in the corner, he was not taking the meal of Ravashi. So Amar Lohu, so Rabbi Yeshua tells Ravashi, "B'tainis Yosivna, I'm fasting." Amru lei v'loy savar lei mar lohad Rabbi Yehuda. To Amar Rabbi Yehuda, loiva adam tanisa yepareya. That even if you fast, there's a concept of you can borrow and pay it back. In other words, you're by me, I'm making you food. Okay, break your fast and fast tomorrow or the next time to pay back this fast. So Amar lei a detail. No, I'm fasting because of a tainas cholam, and that's based on this then. And since Amar Rav bar Machas Amar Rav Chama bar Guri Amar Rav that you have a tainas cholam keish lunoidus, and on that said Rab Chizda, when is fast that effective as an antidote to a bad dream? Dafko boy bayoim, and therefore Rabbi Yosef said afilo b'Shabbos. So therefore, such a fast should not be borrowed and paid back, because if I'm going to eat now, paying back a tainas cholam later won't be effective. And indeed, he rejected the meal, the food that was prepared for him. Okay, now going back to the Mishnah. So the Mishnah gave all of these activities that one should not start samuch lemincha, but the Mishnah says if you v'im ischilu ein mafsikin. Then the Mishnah said that you do interrupt activities for Kriya Shema, and we even mentioned, since the Mishnah was speaking about mincha, there is no Kriya Shema. You're going to see how this will be addressed now indirectly. However, the Mishnah repeated, but for Tefilla, right, the Mishnah says, but for Tefilla, mafsikin letefilla. Now, mafsikin letefilla is mamish superfluous, because the Mishnah spoke about, I'm sorry, you don't interrupt for Tefilla. That's what the Mishnah said, you don't interrupt for Tefilla. Once you started the activities, you don't interrupt for mincha. So it's mamish extra. The Mishnah said that ein mafsikin. Why are we repeating it? So the Gemara says, nah, the Seifa B'chlal is not referring to the behaviors of the Mishnah, because if they would be speaking about going into a barber shop, going into a bathhouse, and Samuch L'Mincha, there's no Shema. It's another din, that if a Yid is learning Torah, the question is, do you interrupt your Torah learning for? So the Mishnah differentiated between Shema and Shemona Esrei, that means in the morning, or at night, you stop for the Shema, but you don't stop for Tefillah. Seifa Hassan l'divrei Torah, Tanya, and we mentioned that in the last daf, that if there is a Yid who Torasai umanusai, that his sole occupation is learning Torah, we're not speaking about a person whose only source of livelihood is going to a kollel. No, it's a Yid that is dedicated, that mamish every moment he has, they learn Torah. Such a person, Taka does not interrupt for davening. For Shmaya, for davening not. That chaverim shehoyu oiskim b'Torah, so mafsikim lekriya Shema, but ve'ein mafsikim letfila. And Amar Rabbi Yechanan lo yishanu elo kegoyin Rab Shimon bar Yochai and his chaverim shetoirasan umanusan avol kegoyin anu. These are Amoraim, Rabbi Yechanan. Even though we spend most of our time learning, it's not on the level. It's not qualitative. It's quantitatively toirasa umanusai. Even if they're learning Taka 24/7. But the level, the quality of learning is not already on the time of Rabbi Yechanan, that we are mafsik l'kriya Shema and l'tefila. And Taka, we don't know any of the tzaddikim of the latter generations that didn't daven, or at least not to our knowledge. We learned another b'raisa kishem she'ein mafsikim l'tefila kach ein mafsikim l'kriya Shema. So who are we referring to? It's even by Torasan and Munasan, you have to stop to read the Shema. So the Gemara answers, Kitanya Hihi, that Berais is speaking about one type of Torah learning, which is not just Torah learning, but it's Lasuki Shmaitza, Aliba de Hilchasa, and it's not any Hilchasa, it's the specific determination whether the year will become intercalated, whether it's going to become a 13-month year. Right? Be'ibur Shana, The Omar of Ada Barahava. It was taught in a Braisa by the elders of Agronia. They had that Braisa that what? That Omar Rabbi Elazar ben Tzaddik said the Tana, Rabbi Elazar ben Tzaddik, that Keshayinu Oiskem Ibur Shana B'Yavnem. And the Rashi points out, interestingly, that they would normally determine whether they should intercalate the year in a attic. And I'm saying these words because we're going to have soon Gavaldik halachas that came out of the attic, right, Danny? Finally, we're back to that. The Ba'aliyas, Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Garoin. So why did people learn in an attic? They learned in a secluded area. No one should disturb them, and they should not have distractions. So you're isolated. And there, lo yoyinu mafsikim, not only not to Shema, not to Tefilla. They sat. These were great people. These were people that sat and discussed and deliberated, and all of the reasons that some of them we have in Chazal, some of them we do not have. B'chlal, making a calendar is called Soid Ho'ibur. It's a secret, not because it's mystical, because this is the only part of Torah Shebal Peh that was B'chlal not written down in Mishnayos nor in Gemara. Correct? Certainly not in Mishnayos. The Gemara mentions little pieces. The way it's done in the Cheshbonos, the one that put it down on paper, the way the heavenly bodies move, the first one was the Rambam. And the reason why the Rambam put it down in Kiddush HaChodesh is because by then Hillel Lamainer already made a calendar. And the reason why this was not put down is because we can tolerate a machlokes in any other area in halacha to a certain degree, right? Even though B'Shamay B'Silil already, we don't allow you to follow B'Shamay. We don't want for there to be two Taitas. The ultimate two Taitas is, imagine if there would be two calendars. Yom Kippur for me is on this day, and according to your Shita, Yom Kippur is on another. That would be the end of the world. So they never put it down. It remained Torah Shebal Peh. And being that this is takadan information that everyone needs to know, so the part of it that we need to know is written at least in the Gemara. But the whole system, the whole Kiddush HaChodesh is written down only later, again after. No one today is afraid that someone is going to learn the Kiddush HaChodesh Rambam and make a new calendar. It's already established, a calendar. There's only one calendar until the coming of Mashiach. Okay, now the Mishnah brings us back to Hilchos Shabbos. Same concept, that there are certain precautionary measures that we need to take before Shabbos in order for there not to be an inadvertent violation of the Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, Lo yetzei hachayot b'machtoi somoch lechashecha. Chashecha, my friends, means bein hashmashos, because we are obligated to keep Shabbos already from bein hashmashos. Truth be told, we just learned above a few daf ago that almost all rabbinic laws, shvusin, don't apply to bein hashmashos. Amiru la'akom may be done on bein hashmashos, but my Shabbos observance doesn't begin when it's vaday laila. It begins from bein hashmashos. That's Shabbos. Samach lechashecha, like we had in the Mishnah Tefilla Beis, samach lemincha means 30 minutes before. 30 minutes before bein hashmashos, a tailor may not go out with a needle. It's a very small article, and as again we'll see in Amud Beis, that carrying until today, especially today I would argue, because many people live in cities where you have an Eruv. And every now and then you go to a place where there's no Eruv. People are not habituated to check all the pockets. It happens that people, b'shoigig, they do transference. They transfer. So to prevent it from happening, 30 minutes before, the tailor should not go out with his needle. Shema yishkach, and he'll go out even bein hashmashos onwards. Another din, similar, a bigger chiddush. Right, a scribe should not go out with his quill. A quill is a little bit larger than a needle. As we're going menakal, something very large, we're not afraid you're going to forget. You're holding a book. You're going to chap, you're holding a book. Some people don't, but most people do. But a needle and even a quill, also don't go out carrying a quill 30 minutes before bein hashmashos. Samach lechashecha. Now the Mishnah goes to another din that's already on Shabbos. But it's the same concept that there's a gezeda, don't do not to violate biblical Shabbos, which is lo yipaleh es kelov. It was common then, maybe today, but then it was probably more common that people had certain bugs in their garments. So you want to delouse your garment. To delouse a garment, Nabach, it's like delousing here. You have to go and look every little millimeter of your garment to see the louse, to see the little bug. And if the lighting is not good, you won't see it. So the question is, Friday night at Shabbos, you have a candle, can you delouse a garment by candlelight? Okay? You may not do that. Likewise, you may not read Friday night by candlelight, because like we spoke out in the intro, here's Rashi says the word shemayate, because the candles that we are referring to is not electric, we're referring to oil and a wick, or another fuel and a wick, and it's very common that the fire in the wick lowers because the oil is going away from the wick, and if you would simply tilt that keli, you'll bring more oil into the wick, the fire will go up, and you're learning Torah, you're delousing, so you're not paying attention to this moment that it's Shabbos, and you're habituated, you're going to tilt a candle, so don't do it. Be'emes amru, this is such a good be'emes. Normally be'emes amru means halacha l'Moshe Sinai. But since it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, be'emes amru means it's certainly this way. No one debates it, there's no machlokes. Be'emes amru could be used, and sometimes is used even by a derabanan. But they wanted to say it's like a halacha l'Moshe. Be'emes amru, hachazan. The chazan is a yid that wasn't learning chitas. The chazan is the shamash in the Beis HaKnesses, who was many times the one putting the Torah in the right place for the reading. Everyone read when they were called to the Torah, but the shamash is the one making sure that the Torah is at the right place. Now, Friday night, the minhag of Yiddish kinderlach is to spend more time in shul and to review the parsha that they learned during the week. Hashem should bless that our children should do that. There's no teacher, it's not enforced. So if the shamash didn't know, the adult didn't know what's the parsha of the week, so he would glance over the shoulders of the children to see what are they reviewing, to know where to make sure he got the right parsha. So that's called glancing. He's looking inside the book, but he's only glancing. So he's allowed to do that. He can roya lehechen tenoikes koren, but he himself may not read it, because reading it is like bringing it close to the candle, and you're looking with more specifics. Again, shemayata. Kayoytze boy. Now we're going mamish me'ingen le'ingen. Shaloi metoichoyse ingen. Lo yoichel hazavim hazava mepnei herger aveira. That when a woman is a zava, truth be told, it also means when she's a nida. And therefore, chazal, what we call, they added harchakos. Any type of activity that creates an ambiance of intimacy is prohibited. One of the behaviors that create intimacy between two parties is eating together. So, really, it's not just a azav. It could have been a tar cannot eat with the zava on the same table, and which is the halacha today. If we will not put something on the table as a reminder, then we may not eat with our wives, even when she's a nida or a zava. B'pnei hergel aved, they might go beyond the biblical barrier. Now, the chiddush is that a zav, as we spoke about in nida, we're going to review it on Amid Beis, because of this illness, that there's an unnatural seminal emission, it's painful for a zav to have a relation. So you would think that if you're a zav, it's not even comfortable to violate an Isur D'Oraisa. We don't have to be worried about you. No, even if it's a zav, he may not eat with his wife who's a zava, and Kol Shchein Rashi says, look inside the Rashi, Kol Shchein Tor, Im Azava. Good. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hassan, we're quoting now a Mishnah from Eruvin. Transferring. What happens? Lo yamid adam b'reshus hayachid v'yishta b'reshus harabim. But if I'm in one domain and the water is in another domain, can I bend over and drink in the same domain as the liquid? This is a good kasha. You're by the boundary of reshus hayachid and reshus harabim, and the water is in the other domain. Likewise, the last line, nor you may not stand the reshus harabim and drink in the reshus hayachid. Why not? If you would just bend over and drink, you didn't go from one reshus to another reshus. But it's very easy to pull back. And if one movement back, you brought it into your current domain. Therefore, in other words, it's too easy to violate. But again, let's say the example, you're in the reshus hayachid, there's water right by you by the reshus harabim. If you don't just bend over a little bit, but the majority of your body is over the domain of the water, it's a reminder. There, moving back isn't just a little movement. It's a much relatively greater movement. Here they allowed your mutter. No, it's that the fact that you'll have to go into this uncomfortable position. You would think, if it's so uncomfortable, I'm bending over so much, I want to get comfortable. No. That's going to keep on reminding me, it's Shabbos. I may not go back. Let me finish drinking. Now, why don't you just walk out there? I have no idea.
Kind of like the well,
It's kind of like the well. Very good. In other words, if there's a well in a Reshus Harabim, great example. We're going to get to a carmelist in a moment. And therefore, if I want to drink over the well, and there's no pasiberoyas, even if there's a cup, you bring the cup down, you bring the cup up. Now, where are you drinking? You're standing on the ground. You're standing in a Reshus Harabim. The well is at a Reshus HaYachid. Great. So the Mishnah says, if I bend over that, not only my head and the majority of my body, it's from waist down. All of that is over the well. Then I'm allowed to drink. That's Yud Aleph on the base. Very good. Sukkahs, yeah.
If our head is inside the sukkah, we are...
Oh, we're going to get to sukkahs. Very good. We get to sukkahs Rosh Hashanah. Very good. We have this concept in other areas. Now the Mishnah says words that are enigmatic. We have to explain. V'chein begas. Same as in a wine press. Now, Rashi right away says, hold on. What does it mean? The Gemara is going to tell you what it means in a moment. L'kamei. I heard from Rab Leib also, very good line. See the top Rashi? You have a Rashi, l'kamei and l'kamon. And it almost always works. It almost always works. That l'kamon is further down. L'kamei means immediately it's going to be explained. These are good klalim. Okay. V'chein begas. Now the Gemara says, Elyahu, before we analyze v'chein begas, we'll see how it's linked. The question is, the Mishnah spoke about two biblically different domains. That if the person leans back, he's violating an isur d'oraisa. Oh, what happens if the carmelist, that means that the water, it's Reshus HaYachid and a carmelist, Reshus Harabim and a carmelist. Again, I don't care which one is in which, but even if there is an act of hoitzah, it's only a rabbinic hoitzah. So here I have a machlokes. Abaye says, same thing.
What's a gas?
Gas means a wine press. We'll go into detail in a moment. But this Elyahu might not be related. Or it might. Rava says no. Rava says, forget about the Rosh Hashanah. If just my head is over let's use your example, Tzvik. I'm over my well. And I drink, if I don't lean back, I did not violate Hoitzah. The Mishnah says I shouldn't do it because it's a Gzeira. But even if I were to move back, I only violated the Drabanan. That's your classical case where normally we don't make a Gzeira l'Gzeira. Rava Amar hi gufa. The whole law of a carmelist is a Gzeira. Va'anan neikoim the nigzar Gzeira l'Gzeira. And as Tosfos here, the second Tosfos points out, Abaya also agrees that generally we don't make a Gzeira not to violate a Drabanan. You're right. But being that Hoitzah is something that so many people b'shoigeg violate, so there's an exception. Abaya holds that even though it's only a rabbin, you're going to lean over if you're not going to make this effort of Rosh Hashanah. The chances of you moving back while you're drinking is that high. And no, you can't violate the Rabbanan. You can't. It's just the Rabbanan. No, we cannot violate the Rabbanan. I have to have a proof of that, because normally like we said, he's moided that we don't make Gzeira l'Gzeira. From this Mishnah that we just quoted, when the Mishnah concludes, the first words we have in the summit, v'chein begas. What does it mean in a wine press? So a wine press, Tzvika, you put the grapes in there, that's where you press the wine. Now people normally, who knows, whoever went to a winery, could be the workers, halavai, they're all Shemin Shabbos, they're leaning over, and they drink over the wine press. Oh, so now, what is the status of this gas? What are we referring to? If it has the status of a Reshus HaYachid, very simple. If the press itself is 10, there's mechitzas of 10, simple. 4 by 4, has to Reshus HaYachid, then Tanina, the Mishnah already spoke about. If you're standing in a Reshus Harabim and you're leaning over Reshus HaYachid, if the gas has a din of a Reshus Harabim, then weiter Tanina. Elamat must be that we're speaking about a carmelist. In other words, the wine press is 3 tvachim off the ground. Reshus Harabim would be if it's mamash on the ground. Within 3 tvachim. It's 3 tvachim. It's not 10 tvachim high. We had this a lot. It is 4 by 4. Great example. So the gas is a carmelist, and that's the whole chiddush Abaye says of the Mishnah, v'chein begas. In other words, even if there'll be a violation, it's only a drabanan, still, only if it's Rosh Hashanah. However, Rava obviously doesn't learn pshat so in the Mishnah. Rava Amar, v'chein begas is concerning Meiser. Guys, this is an opportunity to review some Zerayim over here. When am I obligated in Eretz Yisrael to separate Trumas from Meiser? Only when the product is fully processed. Wine in the wine press, when it's still in the press, is not called fully processed. However, midrabanan, even before an item that has to be tithed is not fully processed, Chazal said you may not partake of it in a way where it is called kva. You can't have an achilas kva. All right? You can only consume it in an achilas aray. So now the question is, drinking wine over a wine press, how do you define that? Is that called something usual or is it something called casual? So the Mishnah is saying that if you bend over that much, so it's uncomfortable, that in itself renders your drinking, even if you drink a lot, into aray, because you're not doing it in a comfortable position. If you would only be leaning over a little bit or standing upright, that's already called, true, it's still in the wine press, it's not called finished product, but it's going to be yasem edrabanan. Beautiful. So it's not about moving back. It's about when you drink in an uncomfortable position, like for most people, it should be that if you're eating standing, that in itself should be laza'arei. That's not the way you do it. Good, great. That's taka the pshat in the Mishnah. V'chein begasling and ma'aser. The Tanan. And here we bring a Mishnah that has three shittas. Shoysen alagas, that if you're drinking over, that means the wine, you're leaning over the wine press, and you're taking a cup out and you're drinking wine. And guys, don't forget that then the wine, because of the fact that the grapes, that's what I heard from winemakers, then were not as irrigated as they are today. So the grapes were smaller. So the juice that came out was a lot more concentrated. That's the explanation, or whatever. The wine then was so intense that if you would not dilute it, you can't drink it. Now, you can argue that if you dilute it, it's a finished product. If you dilute it over, when you're leaning over the wine press, that's not called a finished product because of the way you're drinking it, because of the location that you're drinking it in. So the first Tanach holds whether you dilute it with warm water, whether you dilute it with cold water. L'may nafkamina, just to know what difference will it make whether you dilute it with warm and with cold. Listen, people had preference then to drink hot wine. Go figure. People had preference to drink cold wine. But one thing is for sure, that the moment you add hot water, the longevity of that wine is diminished. So when you put wine in your cup, if you diluted that with hot wine, you would never pour it back in the wine press. You drinking in a way that you could pour it back in the wine press makes your act of drinking less permanent, less kavah. You're drinking, you're throwing it back. So the Tanach holds whether you put in chamen, when you put in soinen, upater, right? Divided Rabbi Meir. Here, upater, my friend, it's not hilchas Shabbat, it's not pater avol asur. Pater means, since it's not a finished product, number one. Number two, it's not called kva, because you're drinking it on top of the press. That in itself, there's no derabanan disallowing you to drink. Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadik says no, that you're mechayiv. The very fact that you diluted it, diluting wine makes the wine into a finished product. Even though you are drinking it not in a place where normally people have a wine meal. That's not the way people sit and drink wine. It's over the press. It doesn't matter. The product is finished. It's diluted. And the Chachamim differentiate what type of temperature water did you use to dilute it. Al hachamin, if you put in hot water, like we mentioned, since pouring that wine back into the press will it's going to shorten the life of the wine in the press. So therefore, what is in your cup, you will drink. That makes your drinking kavah. That's it. This wine is finished. You're not going to pour it back. Al hatsoinen, if you diluted it with cold water, and you're not going to hesitate to pour it back. So your location will make that drinking called aray, and therefore not even midrabanan are you mechuyev to tithe it, and therefore you may drink it. Okay. Tanan, we're going back to the machlekes Abaye and Rava. Whether you make a gzeira or gzeira. Learn to our Mishnah. Lo yetza chay b'machtei somach chasheicham. Shama yishkach v'yetzei. So here we're speaking about you not allowed to walk out already 30 minutes before Shabbos. And my love, that how would the tailor walk out with his needle? L'cha'ira, the tchuva loy bebigdai. L'cha'ura, the havamina is that if the tailor would be holding it in his hand, why are you afraid that someone is going to accidentally carry on Shabbos if the item is in their hand? They see they're carrying it. L'cha'ira means that they pinned it into the garment, as we'll see many tailors do when they want to advertise to the world that they're tailors. So if it's pinned into the garment, based on the premise that carrying a needle pinned in the garment is unusual, And based on the rule, which is very important, chavra, that any action that's unusual, shaloi kedarka, is only asur midrabanan. So l'chayr, you see in the Mishnah that we make a gzeira l'gzeira. This is great. Which you can't carry 30 minutes before Shabbos. Gzeira you might end up carrying on Shabbos. If the Mishnah is only speaking about a pinned needle, based on the presumption that carrying it pinned in the garment is only an isur midrabanan, so it's mamash gzeira l'gzeira. Kasha on Rava, says Rava Loi, that our Mishnah is speaking about you're carrying it in your hand. And you know something? If you are a tailor and you always are walking around with this in your hand, you might forget and carry on Shabbos, because you're used to carrying it in your hand. Tashema, another attempted refutation against Rava. It says in a Braisa. Here it says clearly, Lo yetze achai b'machlei ha'techuva loi bebigda. You may not walk out with the needle, right, with your sewing instruments pinned into your garment. And my love, that this Braisa is referring not to Shabbos itself, to Erev Shabbos. Gzeira l'gzeira. No, says Rava, kitanya hi b'Shabbos. And ein chanami Erev Shabbos, Rava's arguing, a tailor is allowed to walk all the way up until Ben Hashmashos with a needle pinned into his garment. Fragt die Gemara, now we're finding yet another Braisa. Lo yetzi achad b'machlei ha'techuva bebigdei be'erev Shabbos im chashecha. Guys, be'erev Shabbos im chashecha means not when it's Ben Hashmashos. It means shortly before Ben Hashmashos. What do you do with that? So here Rava says again, it's not a kasha. Because the question against Rava was based on the premise that walking out with a needle pinned in the garment is shaloi kedarkai. Rava is now going to argue that for a tailor, since tailors go out at least sometimes with these utensils pinned in their garment, for the tailor it's kedarkai. That's the big question now. How do you define usual or unusual? Is it what's usual for the world, or is it what's usual for you? Gavaldik. And you're a tailor. Now, why did tailors go around with these instruments pinned in their garments? Not because it was more convenient. We'll see in a moment. Because sometimes, today in America, everything is advertisement. Whenever he wanted to advertise that he's a tailor, the way he would do it is he'd walk out on the street with a pin in the garment. And we're going to see in a moment, lav dafka, I'm jumping ahead, just to know, lav dafka, that's called kedarkai. See, there's another nuance. No, it's the tailor himself would rather carry it in his hand. He only pins it in his garment when he wants to advertise. When he's overloaded with work, maybe certain people don't care, but we'll see even for the tailor it might be shaloi kedarkai. We'll get to that soon. But now the premise is, pinned is shaloi kedarkai. So says Rava, no, that our Braisa follows the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, and we'll see it's a machlokes Rav Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. The Omar that he says that derech umanusai, that if a craftsman is carrying in a manner that his chevre carry that way, you're chayiv. The Tanya. Chayiv means here, Hilchos Shabbos chayiv, not by Meiseres Pater, meaning you're good. Here chayiv means it's chayiv midoiraisa. The Tanya, lo yetzeh chayiv b'machlei hatuchuv bebigdoi. Because again, they would walk out that way. Neither a nagar, which is a carpenter, cannot walk out b'keisam sheba'oznai, with a ruler behind his ear. Till today, these chachamim, they walk around with a pencil behind there. Where did they get it? They got it because they learned Torah. So, and again, it was done not because they had no pockets. It was done to advertise. That was the main kavanah. So a carpenter has to cut in the right measurement. They needed the ruler. So if I would go out with a ruler, I would be violating the Rabbanan, which is terrible, but it's isur the Rabbanan. Patur, avalasur. A nagar chayv chatos. V'loi soireik. Soirik are people that make felt, or they make what's called that plush garment, velvet, shkoyach. So there were certain instruments. It's amazing. I know a friend in Brazil that was a great Mauricio Peixoto. It's gavaldik. It's machines that they comb up the garments in a way that it changes it. It becomes velvet, and they would use a instrument called a meshicha, and again they would put it behind their ears. People should know that they are velvet makers. Shabazli. V'loi garde, a weaver, be'ira, a stopper, an instrument that weavers ba'aznai. V'loi tzaba. Now the tzaba, the dyer, not dying as in passing away, dying as in tinturaria, dyeing, colors. So they would have colors. Oy gewalt. If you don't dye it on the right color in the right season, you're in big trouble, my friends. So they would go around with a necklace, and they had all of the different shades of that season on their necklace. So, and they did that, people should know who they are. If anyone else would do it, they're violating the Rabbanan. It's not that they're good, but they're not chayiv chatas. But this uman is chayiv chatas. If you're a banker, today a banker simply just don't work. You wake up late, you go to shul, you're not rushing, he's a banker. They would put coins behind their ears because there would be money changers. And in all of these cases, in all of these cases that Rav Meir holds, you're still pater. Rav Meir holds, even if you are the craftsman, even though you go out sometimes that way, says Rav Meir, you're pater. It's only Asur Midrabanan. Why is that? Because it's Sholei Kedarkai. Rabbi Yehuda, Omer, Uman, Derech Menasei Chayiv, V'shar Kol Adam pater. So again, Rava now answered the contradiction. You're right. We don't make a Gzeira L'Gzeira, not even by Hoitza'ah. However, according to Rabbi Yehuda, since the tailor, for him it's Kedarkai, Zastach Meferish. So therefore, since for him it's Kedarkai, he's advertising, then also Midoraisa, so you make one Gezeira, don't walk out with the Machad Bebigdoi, half an hour, Samach Lachashecha, you might end up carrying on Shabbos Midoraisa. Well, now, says the Gemara, hold on, I'm going to bring to you two braises, and we won't have enough time to finish this today. We'll review these two braises. It's very simple, but there's a stira. Tanach, braisa number one, it says, Lo Yetze Hazav Bekisai. We have all this anida. So a zav is a person who's having involuntary, unhealthy seminal emissions. And there are certain times, as we'll see, that the zav needed to know how many such emissions he's having. There are other times that the zav didn't need to know. He's anyways tummy on the highest level. Anyways, he didn't start counting his 7 clean days, but he doesn't want his garments to get soiled. So sometimes, in order to prevent soiling, other times because he needed to know, they would have a certain type of pouch that they would wear around their member. They would wear around their organ. Question is, can you walk out on Shabbos with this kiss? So one brayse it says, Lo Yetze Hazav Bekisai. However, Ve'im Yatza, he's pater. Not chayiv, only midrabanan. Us. Avalas. However, V'tanya Idach says in another brayse, much more strict, Lo Yetze, and Ve'im Yatza chayiv chatas. So is this doiraisa or is this a derabanan? All this would lead us into kedarkai, shaloi kedarkai. All of this would lead us into shaloi kedarkai for you, shaloi kedarkai for everyone. So Amar Rabbi Yosef. Now that we had the above braisa, says like kasher. Rav Meir holds, right? What was the whole vart of Rav Meir? That even though you carry this, for you it's kedarkai. If for the bigger oilam, it's shaloi kedarkai, it's shaloi kedarkai. You know what I mean? Even the chayit, even the nagar, pater avolasa. In other words, aside of a zav, who needs a kiss? No one. So this is a good case. It's for the zav, it's needed. So what? According to Rav Meir, since it's generally unusual, so therefore that's the first braisa. It's taka asur midrabanan, but you're not chayiv chatas. And the latter braisa goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei Abaye. Not so easy. Says Abaye to Rav Yosef, Eimer the shamat leil Rav Meir. Even Rav Meir, who's lenient, that's the word. What Rabbi Yehuda holds, for you it's usual, you chayiv chatas. Rav Meir holds, your pater, that's only b'mida delav, hainu orchei, very important. Even the chayot doesn't prefer to go around with a needle stuck into his garment. He wasn't looking to avoid carrying it. Even him, like Rashi says, it wasn't an inherent kedarkai. When he's in the advertising mode, he would put it pinned in his garment. But that doesn't, according to Rav Meir, it doesn't make it kedarkai, not even for the chayit. The reason why Rav Meir says pater, avolasa, not chayiv, is because Rav Meir views this even unusual for the tailor. But the midah dahainu urchei, and that's the zav, a zav would walk around with a pouch, that is for him. Even Rav Meir holds that if it's usual for you, it's kedarkai. Mi shamatlei. Does he hold that you're still a pater me pater? Because other people don't do it? For you, if this is your urchei, interesting. You see, today in America, okay, it's hard to get the difference because advertising is urche. No, advertising doesn't mean urche. Advertising means even you are doing something unusual to chap attention. And kedarke means, no, I'm not doing it to grab attention, I'm doing it for me. I think that's what, am I doing it for me, or am I doing it for others? If I'm doing it for others, you can argue it's still shaloi kedarke. I'm going out of my way. But if I need it for me, everyone holds that if it's usual for me, yechayiv chatos. He gives a great proof. He gives an example. There's many ways of learning it. Let's go with the understanding. People who, God forbid, had a limb amputated, the leg amputated, or the foot amputated. So they would have then the primitive stumps of wood that they would create, and the inside of the top of the stump, the part that touches the bottom part of the leg, would be hollowed, so it should fit over the leg. And for that, they would have to carve out the wood. Now, a professional would know exactly how to carve it out and how to finish the wood inside. They would not put a shmata, it shouldn't hurt the body. What happens if you have a non-professional? And he did it. He did it the best he knows how to do it. But a professional will say, that's not good. Did he violate Shabbos? Can you say, an act shaloi kedarkei was done? If we view at how is it done out there no one does such an unprofessional job. Everyone, however, will hold that you're chayav chatos for doing it. My job for the professional is not good. For me, it's good. No one holds that we look at, that's what Abai is arguing, how it's done out there. If I did it the best way I know how to do it, I'm chayiv chatos.
There's always a better way.
There's always a better way, but here we're putting a line. There's the uman and the hedyot. That a hedyot, that he prepares this fake leg. L'Rav Meir nami loy mechayiv. Yes, chayiv. Why? Because for you, that it's kedarkei. So therefore, we're back to the kasha. In other words, everyone holds that if you do something that for you it's your usual way, if that is a malach on Shabbos, you're chayiv chatos. The only reason why Rav Meir is lenient by the professionals is because they don't do it for them; they do it just to advertise. So now coming back to the Zav, how do you explain the first braysa that was lenient, that says that a Zav who goes out with his kiss, he's pater aval asur, he should be chayiv. A Zav goes out with the kiss; it's for him, it's kedarkei. Amar Rav Amnuna like kashem, kam bezav baal shtei re'iyas, kam bezav baal gimel re'iyas. If a person has the first time this unusual ziva emission, then he has a din of a balkeri. Once he had it second time on the same day or on the consecutive day, he's a bona fide zav and he needs shivas nekiyim. But at the end of the shivas nekiyim, he doesn't have to bring the 2 bird karbanis. If he has it a third time, whether on the same day or on 2 days or max on the third consecutive day, 1, not more spread out, then not only is he a zav, he has to bring karbanis. So if he saw it twice, and he's wearing the pouch because he's obligated to see whether he'll see it another time, seeing it a third time will change the status, that's when he's chayiv chatos. But if he already saw it 3 times, so there's no halachic need for him to see whether he's a zav or not. Since there is no need, now even for him it's shaloi kedarkei. Frek the Gemara, no. Maishna zav baal shtei re'iyas techayiv, because the mibayle lebedika, to see if it's a third time, frek the Gemara, hold on, a zav baal gimel, the first wide line, he also has to wear a pouch halachically, because he has to count 7 clean days. So there's also a halachic need to wear the pouch. Mibayle l'sfira. Answers the Gemara, hold on. If he became a zav today, baal gimel re'iyas, or baal beis re'iyas, and he's wearing the pouch tomorrow, which he would like to count for the first of the 7 clean days, you're right. But what, on the same day that he became a zav baal gimel re'iyas, if that day is Shabbos, taka, there's no halachic need. He's already mechuyev to bring karbanos anyway. Today, he cannot begin counting the 7 clean days. 7 clean days begins at night. So taka, there's no halachic need. And since there's no halachic need, it's called shaloi kedarkei. Fracting him, I don't know. No, I get it. There's no need. It won't change the status. But if a person doesn't want to soil his clothing, that's called a need. And everyone would wear something, invited kedarkei. So Amar Abzeda, hi Tano Huda Amar. I'll prove it to you that this first Tano holds. Guys, these are such good concepts. Kol atzulei tinof loiko chashav. Any activity that's done only to prevent something else becoming dirty is not considered a halachically chashuv dika action. We're not minimizing the importance of hygiene, but to make something chashuv, just to protect something from dirt, is not called chashuv, and I'll prove it to you, Titnan. And here's the key. For foods to become susceptible to become tummy, not tummy, susceptible to become tummy, after the foods were disconnected from the ground, they needed first to be wetted. Now, when the Torah speaks about the whole parsha, the Torah writes ki yutan mayim, but however, it's not yud vav taf nun. It's spelled in a way, the letters are yud taf nun, that it could be vowelized yitin. Yitin means putting on purpose. Yutan means that it happened passively. So Chazal say that the reason why Hashem did not put a vav is to tell you that even though the owner is not the one that needs to make it wet, but it has to happen even passively with his knowledge and satisfaction. Step number one. Step number two. Satisfaction doesn't even mean that he has to be satisfied that the water wetted the produce, even if he doesn't care about the produce, even if he doesn't want the produce to get wet. But if he wanted something to happen before the produce became wet with that water, l'masha, it's raining, and I have a plate, and I don't have running water. Oh, I want to use the rain to clean my plate, so I put my plates outside. And what's happening? The water, the rain, is going into my cleaning out the plate. Now that water that cleaned out the plate falls on my produce. I didn't want my produce to get wet. I have no satisfaction of that. But that's called, in the words of Rashi, that kol mashka shetchilosei l'ratzaim. Since I wanted the plate to get cleaned out, I wanted the water to clean out the plate. Now that water, afal pi she'ein soifer l'ratzaim, that water is machshav. So now let's read the last line of the Amit, Tanan. Hakoifa ka'ar ala koisel. If I put a plate on a wall and get the water ricocheted off the plate onto the produce, if I wanted the plate to get cleaned, so then then if that water falls on the produce, it's called knowledge and satisfaction because of the rule of Rashi. However, if I don't want for the plate to get cleaned, I want to protect my wall. I don't want my wall to get wet. My wall will get ruined if it's wet. Gavaldik. So I put the keli to protect the wall. And the water hit off that keli onto the produce. Because anything that's done solely for protection is not called a chashuv action. So here also, if it's only for his garments not to get soiled, it's not chashuv. And therefore, chaloi kedarka, and therefore, patal avalasa. Says the Gemara, no midami, we'll just end up with this ref kasha. Hassan, loi koboy eluhu lahana mashken klal. In the case, the guy didn't want any water to hit the wall. He doesn't want the water. It's not because it's only to prevent the wall of getting wet. It's not chashuv. He doesn't want the water. Over here, here he wants the kiss. He wants the kiss. He wants the kiss. There he doesn't want. It's the opposite. So if I want the kiss, in order for the kiss to stop the seminal emission from soiling the rest of my garments, there is enough of a ratzoin for not to soil that it is a chashuva act, and therefore it should become his usual way kedarkai. And everyone subscribes that if it's usual for this guy, then for him it's chayv chatos. So we're back to the kasha. Why is there in the first braisa a shita that says that if a zav that wears a kiss b'Shabbos, it's only patal avul asur? To be continued. It's late, but at least there's no tachlim.
It's the same thing. Also, there you don't want the